Hey folks, Luke Mullin here for the Lincoln Journal-Star, breaking down Nebraska's 2025 recruiting class for you today. Wednesday, National Signing Day for the early period. 20 Huskers signing with the team today. Maybe a tick more, a tick less. There was always some drama, as there is on National Signing Day. Jeremiah Jones, he was the last to sign with the team today. Some late recruiting interest there to do with Garrett McGuire's different role on the team, not expected to continue as wide receivers coach. Missouri was one of those teams who had been recruiting Jones heavily throughout the process. Made a late run at him today. Matt Rule said just before he got down for his 1 p.m. Signing day press conference that Jones let him know he had committed. He was staying true to Nebraska. So Nebraska keeps Jones, and one signing day addition for the team. Wide receiver Cortez Mills made a signing day flip this morning, going from Oklahoma to Nebraska, a guy who has been heavily recruited by Nebraska. He was one of those top wide receiver prospects that the Huskers brought to campus multiple times over the past few months. Mills, he was an Oklahoma commit for several months, but he let Nebraska know he was going to be there, and he flipped today. Where Nebraska did not win, though, was with five-star athlete Michael Terry, Texan recruit out of San Antonio. He was a guy that was expected to trend towards Texas for many months. He was there. Lots of game day visits, lots of different junior events, just a common fixture down there in Austin. But, man, he really enjoyed what he's had from Nebraska, too. Really strong relationship there. And those were the two front runners, Nebraska and Texas, five-star athletes. They do not pick Nebraska often. Prior to Dylan Raiola, it had been over a decade since a five-star commit had chosen Nebraska. So Huskers to the final two, that was progress, but not ultimately able to land Terry. Now, running you down through this recruiting class, as I said, 20 recruits, 6 of those come from in-state and 13 from within the 500-mile radius that Nebraska does try to recruit heavily each and every year. Lots of progress for the Huskers in Kansas City. You have Jamar Mosey to thank. He's the new one of those new offensive assistant staffers with that NCAA rule for unlimited assistant coaches. Also, Rob Dvorak, he recruited Missouri for these past 2 years for the Nebraska football team. One of his guys out down there, Dawson Merritt, he played such a huge role in getting that guy to come to Nebraska. So that's a big storyline for this team, success in the Kansas City area and across the Midwest. And as we look at these positions, let's start on the offensive side of the ball with the quarterback, TJ Lateef, who anchors this offensive side. Quarterbacks, they come into the class early, but Lateef waited a little while to make his decision. That was in the spring. He was looking at Nebraska, had his official visit for the spring game, and I really like what Lateef brings to the table. I mean, talented passer, high-level arm, and what you really like about him is played at the highest level of high school competition that there really is in the country out there in California, playing against the likes of Mater Dei, St. John Bosco, these consistent collegiate producing and even NFL talent producing programs out there in California. And Lateef, he's a student of the game, loves studying the film, loves understanding what opposing defenses are going to do. And guess what? He becomes very, very important for this Nebraska football team. Danny Kaelin off to the portal. Matt Rule today saying Heinrich Harburg, they're going to try him out at some different positions. That means Dylan Raiola and TJ Lateef. That's who Nebraska's got as a scholarship quarterback right now. A lot to like about Lateef's potential in this Nebraska football offense. Look at the running back spot. 2 Huskers signing on with the team this year. Connor Booth from within the state's borders, from Wahoo, Bishop Newman, such a dominant running back there. Scored about 50 rushing touchdowns this season. Unfortunately, was sidelined by an injury that caused him to miss part of the playoffs, limited him in that state final. But Booth, just one of the best high school players this state has produced in recent memory. He's going to be a dynamic athlete, powerful force to be reckoned with there at running back. Then you got the other guy, Jamarian Parker, coming out of the St. Louis area, who is a home run hitter. As big as they come, he is going to be dynamite for this Nebraska football team. Not your bruiser that maybe Booth will be able to do a little bit more, a little bit of that thunder and lightning approach, perhaps with these 2 running backs that Nebraska signed. And Parker, he was severe SEC interest, really rose up some recruiting boards. Again, Nebraska doing a good job to keep him one of those Midwest prospects in part of the Huskers 2025 class. And at wide receiver, there's a big potential with this group. I mentioned a few of those names already. Cortez Mills, again, he committed today. Big-time 4-star recruit, great hands, super productive there. He's coming out of the Miami area. Again, played against some very good high school level competition there. He's been tested. He's going to be a dynamite potential for this Nebraska team. And then the other guy that you really look to, Isaiah Mosey, the son of Jamar Mosey that I mentioned, the former Kansas City high school coach who joined the Nebraska coaching staff. Isaiah Mosey, former Oregon commit, And when Oregon's recruiting a guy on offense, you know he's going to be good. That Ducks offense, super high-powered all the time. Mosey, so much to like. Kind of think of him as maybe a little bit bigger Ja'Cory Barney type. Short, athletic, speedy guy who has great hands, is going to be able to get the ball in space, make something happen with it. He is one of those potential wide receivers in this class. Two other guys to mention there, Jeremiah Jones. Again, not sure about where he's going to line up. I had thought maybe at one time he would be a defensive back, type of playmaking safety. Sounded like he was trending more towards wide receiver with Nebraska. Again, some of these guys, they'll get them in, evaluate them at multiple positions in practice, see what works for them. And then as well, Jackson Carpenter, the local kid, Lincoln Southwest standout, track and field speed, big frame. Going to need to develop maybe some of that route running, but 50-50 catches, throw it up there, let him go get it, let him be that big play threat. Jackson Carpenter, also a lot of potential as a wide receiver. And then finally, the offensive line on the offensive side of the ball, 4 of them in this class. Different potential versus, interior versus exterior, playing tackle versus guard. You look at Sean Hammerbeck, Juju Marks, and as well Brian Tapu. I would say those guys kind of trend a little bit more towards offensive tackle. And then you have Houston Kahina-Torres, Hawaiian, offensive line recruit. Expect him to be a center, could maybe play guard. Donovan Raiola did a very good job recruiting all 4 of those guys. Big bodies, big potential there to the Nebraska offensive line room. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Terrence Knighton, the defensive line coach, expected to move on to Florida State, but his recruiting work has paid off in some big high-level commits for the Nebraska football team. None bigger along the defensive line than Malcolm Simpson. He is one of the highest-rated recruits in this class for Nebraska, comes out of the Houston area, which is the area that Knighton did recruit for this Nebraska football team. Had interest from Texas, had interest from lots of top SEC programs because he has that potential to be dynamite, standout defensive lineman of the future, edge rusher, can bring down opposing passers. A lot to like in Simpson there. And then you also have Tyson Terry from Omaha North, Cade Petrek from up in North Dakota. 2 big-bodied guys. Tyson Terry, potentially maybe that nose tackle of the future. Petrek could go either way, interior or exterior of that defensive line. Those 3 guys, a lot to build around there up front. But you look at this linebacker group, Pierce Newberry, off-ball linebacker there from Miller North, up in Omaha, has a lot of athletic potential. Going to see how Nebraska chooses to utilize him. But you look at those other 2 linebackers, Omaha West Side's Christian Jones and Dawson Merritt, and you think those 2 could be some real cornerstones of the Nebraska defense sooner rather than later, because these are 2 guys with big-time pedigree. Jones, more of that inside interior linebacker. Merritt, more of a hybrid pass rusher. Could expect him to be a jack linebacker in this Nebraska defensive system. Merritt, former Alabama commit. He is the highest-rated recruit in this class for Nebraska. Jones had interest from all over the country. SEC, Oklahoma was another contender for him. He was a slow roller. He played that process slow, wanted to really evaluate Nebraska, and in the wake of defensive coordinator Tony White moving on, said he committed to the school, not a specific coach. He's excited to be a Husker. Christian Jones, potential interior linebacker of the future. And rounding out this class there in the secondary, I mentioned Jeremiah Jones. He could be a fit for a playmaker secondary role as well. Another guy of that ilk, Tanner Turch. He is a high-level recruit out of Colorado, was one of the best wide receivers in the state, made big play after big play in Colorado high school football. Expecting to be more of a safety, a guy that they're going to try out there in the secondary that they really like, his athletic potential. Caden Vermoss, another guy out of Miller North, rounding out that in-state class. He's also a safety type in that secondary. And then only one real cornerback recruit that I have noticed, Bryson Weber. Man, he is a standout out of Texas. Evan Cooper, the former DB's coach, did a lot of good work recruiting him. When John Butler came in, there was some hesitancy. John Butler immediately got Weber on the phone, told him he wanted him to Nebraska. Weber stayed the course, and he looks like a standout cornerback recruit. Got the size, the ball skills, former wide receiver, all of the traits that Nebraska is looking for there at cornerback. So you zoom out, you go big picture on this class in total. Nebraska on the upper half of the Big Ten, top 20 around the country, top 25, depending on the recruiting outlet. A lot to like about this class, about the potential that head coach Matt Rhule has brought into the program. As Nebraska's 2025 class signs today, 20 commits, Husker players for the future.